Top 9 Banned Places on Earth Most people will never see. Some places on Earth are not hidden because they are hard to find. They are hidden because you are not allowed to go there. Across the planet, there are sacred sanctuaries, military zones, nuclear test sites, protected islands, forbidden forests, and entire territories where entry is restricted by law, faith, science, or survival. Stay until number 1, because the final place is not just forbidden, it could endanger entire communities. Before we begin, tell us in the comments which is more mysterious to you: a sacred site, a military zone, or a place protected from all human contact. Number 9. Surtsey Island, Iceland. This island is so protected that even a single seed on someone's shoe could ruin decades of science. Off the southern coast of Iceland, Surtsey rises from the Atlantic as a dark volcanic island surrounded by cold waves and open sky. Its black rock, rough coastline, and wind-beaten surface make it look young, raw, and unfinished. That is because it is young. Surtsey did not exist until a volcanic eruption broke through the sea in 1963. Surtsey is one of the youngest islands on Earth. After the eruption ended, scientists realized they had a rare opportunity. A brand new landmass with no human history, no farms, no roads, and no planted ecosystem. So Iceland restricted access almost immediately. Only authorized researchers can visit. The goal is to observe how life naturally colonizes new land without humans contaminating the experiment. Number 9. Surtsey Island, a living laboratory. The island has been slowly shrinking because the ocean is eroding it. What began as new volcanic land is being eaten away by waves. At the same time, plants, birds, insects, and soil life have gradually arrived. So Surtsey is both being born and disappearing at the same time. For scientists, Surtsey is not just an island, it is a living laboratory. Every plant that arrives, every bird that nests, and every change in the soil tells researchers how life begins on untouched land. For the rest of us, it remains off limits, and that is exactly why it matters. But Surtsey is banned to protect new life. The next place is restricted because it is one of the most sacred locations in an entire religion. From the Atlantic, we move to Japan. Number 8. Ise Grand Shrine, Inner Sanctum, Japan. Millions can visit the shrine grounds, but almost no one is allowed to see what lies at the heart of them. Ise Grand Shrine is one of the holiest sites in Shinto. It is dedicated to Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess and mythological ancestor of Japan's imperial family. The inner sanctuary of the main shrine is restricted to Shinto priests and members of the imperial household. For most visitors, the deepest space is not only inaccessible, it is intentionally invisible. Every 20 years, the shrine is rebuilt on an adjacent plot using traditional materials, craftsmanship, and ritual. This practice, known as Shikinen Sengu, has continued for centuries. The strange part is that the shrine is both ancient and constantly renewed. The physical structure changes, but the tradition continues like a living chain. To outsiders, the restriction may feel mysterious. To many Japanese worshippers, it is a matter of respect. The power of the place is not in public exposure, it is in sacred distance. Ise reminds us that not everything becomes more meaningful when it is revealed. But Ise is forbidden through sacred tradition. The next banned place is protected by ocean, isolation, and wildlife so rare that human access has to be tightly controlled. From Japan's sacred forests, we travel deep into the Pacific Ocean to an atoll where nature still looks almost untouched. Number 7. Palmyra Atoll, Pacific Ocean. This place looks like paradise, but getting there is almost impossible without permission. Palmyra Atoll sits in the central Pacific, surrounded by turquoise water, coral reefs, white sand, thick vegetation, and endless ocean. From above, it looks like a tropical dream, a necklace of reef and lagoon floating far from civilization. But its beauty is protected by distance and by law. Palmyra is administered as a U.S. National Wildlife Refuge, with parts owned by the Nature Conservancy. Access is extremely limited and generally reserved for researchers, conservation staff, and a very small number of permitted visitors. The reason is simple. The ecosystem is too valuable to treat like a normal destination. Its coral reefs, fish populations, seabirds, and isolated environment offer scientists a rare look at what Pacific reef systems can look like without heavy human pressure. The atoll also has a darker history. During World War II, it was used by the U.S. Navy. Later, it became known for a remote murder case in 1974, made famous in the book And the Sea Will Tell. That contrast is unsettling. A place preserved as one of the Pacific's most pristine ecosystems also holds one of the strangest crime stories in remote island history. For conservationists, Palmyra is precious because it shows what happens when nature is given space. For ordinary travelers, it is almost unreachable. That is the cost of protecting something rare. If everyone could go, it would stop being what it is. But Palmyra is restricted to protect nature. The next place is banned because of what humans detonated there. From coral reefs in the Pacific, we move to a nuclear scar left behind in the desert of western China. Number 6. Lop Nor Restricted Zone, China. This dried lakebed was once part of ancient trade history. Then it became one of the most secretive nuclear zones on Earth. In Xinjiang, western China, Lop Nor lies in an arid basin of salt, desert, heat, and emptiness. The landscape looks almost lunar. Pale ground, dry lake beds, hard wind, and a horizon that seems to stretch forever. It is the kind of place where silence feels heavy. Lop Nor became China's nuclear weapons testing area. Between 1964 and 1996, the region was used for dozens of nuclear tests, including atmospheric and underground detonations. Because of that military history, the broader area remains restricted. Civilian access is not available in any normal sense, and independent environmental assessment has been limited by government control. The dried lake itself was historically connected to Silk Road geography, but water diversion caused Lop Nor to dry up by the 1970s. So the landscape carries multiple layers of transformation: ancient trade, ecological collapse, nuclear testing, and military secrecy. One place, 4 different kinds of disappearance. The people outside the restricted zone may never fully know the environmental consequences of decades of testing. That is what makes Lop Nor disturbing. It is not just that people cannot visit. It is that the truth of what remains there is locked behind state control, desert, and military silence. But Lop Nor hides a nuclear legacy in the desert. The next banned place holds nuclear waste beneath a concrete dome, slowly challenged by the ocean. From China's restricted desert, we move to a coral atoll where an island was literally vaporized. If you could safely see just one of these forbidden places from a distance, which would you choose? Surtsey, Ise Grand Shrine, Palmyra Atoll, or Lop Nor? Drop your answer before we reach number 1. Number 5. Enewetak Atoll, Marshall Islands. At Enewetak, one island did not just become restricted, it disappeared. Enewetak Atoll is a ring of coral islands surrounded by blue Pacific water. From above, it looks beautiful, almost peaceful. But hidden inside that beauty is one of the most disturbing nuclear legacies of the 20th century. The United States used Enewetak Atoll for nuclear weapons testing between 1948 and 1958. The first hydrogen bomb test, Ivy Mike, was detonated there in 1952. Its force was so massive that the island of Elugalab was vaporized. Later, contaminated soil and debris were collected and placed inside a crater on Runit Island, then covered with a concrete dome known as the Cactus Dome. The most unsettling detail is that the dome is not watertight. Rising seas, aging concrete, and radioactive contamination have raised concerns about long-term leakage into the surrounding environment. It looks like containment, but it may also be a countdown. The people of Enewetak were relocated before testing and waited decades to return to parts of the atoll. Some areas remain restricted, especially around Runit Island. Enewetak is banned not because it is mysterious in a romantic way, but because humans made it dangerous. But nuclear scars are only one reason places disappear from public access. The next location is restricted by religion, law, and one of the largest human gatherings on Earth. From a nuclear atoll in the Pacific, we travel to Saudi Arabia, where one sacred city remains forbidden to non-Muslims. Number 4. Mecca Grand Sanctuary, Saudi Arabia. For billions of people, Mecca is the holiest destination on earth. For others, it is a city they are not permitted to enter. At the heart of Mecca stands Masjid al-Haram, the Grand Mosque, surrounding the Kaaba, the black-draped cube toward which Muslims around the world face in prayer. During pilgrimage, the mosque fills with waves of worshippers moving in powerful circular motion. It is one of the most intense religious scenes on the planet. Access to Mecca is restricted to Muslims only under Saudi law. Non-Muslims are not permitted to enter the city, not just the mosque. This is not a tourist ban in the ordinary sense. It is tied to Islamic tradition, the sanctity of the holy city, and the religious identity of the space. The annual Hajj pilgrimage brings millions of Muslim pilgrims to Mecca, making it one of the largest yearly human gatherings on earth. The scale is enormous, with vast infrastructure built to manage prayer, movement, safety, and crowd flow. For non-Muslims, the Kaaba can only be seen through images and video. Historically, some outsiders attempted to enter Mecca in disguise, including British explorer Richard Burton in the 19th century. But for Muslims, the city is not a curiosity. It is the spiritual center of a global faith. Mecca shows that some restrictions are not about secrecy, they are about sanctity. But Mecca is restricted by faith. The next place is restricted by cold, isolation, polar bears, and an environment that punishes anyone unprepared. From the desert city of Mecca, we move to the Arctic, where access may be technically possible, but survival is another question entirely. Number 3. Spitsbergen Desert Interior, Svalbard, Norway. This place does not need a wall. The Arctic is the wall. The interior of Spitsbergen is a polar desert of glaciers, frozen valleys, wind-scoured rock, and empty white distance. There are no cities in the interior, no easy roads, and no comforting sense that help is nearby. The landscape feels beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, clean, cold, unforgiving. Spitsbergen is the largest island in the Svalbard archipelago. Traveling outside settlements requires serious preparation. Norwegian regulations require protection against polar bears, and the lack of rescue infrastructure creates a barrier stronger than many official bans. Svalbard's Arctic environment is warming rapidly, and glaciers are retreating. At the same time, the interior contains traces of human history, including old trapper cabins and whaling-era sites. So, Spitsbergen is not only dangerous, it is changing, and some parts of its frozen history may not remain frozen forever. For scientists, explorers, and trained Arctic travelers, Spitsbergen's interior is a place of research and endurance. For most people, it is effectively unreachable, not because nobody owns a ticket, because the environment itself demands a level of respect most casual visitors do not have. But the Arctic keeps people out through nature. The next place keeps people out through sovereignty, secrecy, and a story where real restrictions collided with conspiracy. From the frozen interior of Svalbard, we travel to New Mexico, where a mesa became one of America's strangest restricted legends. Number 2. Archuleta Mesa, New Mexico, USA. Archuleta Mesa is not just restricted land. It is a place where real boundaries and wild stories became almost impossible to separate. Above the town of Dulce in northern New Mexico, Archuleta Mesa rises in high desert silence. The land is rugged, dry, and open, with mesas, forests, wildlife, and the strange stillness of remote terrain. From the outside, it may look like another piece of American Southwest landscape, but culturally, it has become much more than that. Access around Archuleta Mesa is restricted through a combination of Jicarilla Apache tribal sovereignty and surrounding federal land management rules. The land is not a public playground. It belongs to a legal and cultural context that outsiders do not get to ignore. But the place became famous for another reason: conspiracy theories about an alleged underground base near Dulce. These claims grew in the late 20th century, especially around businessman Paul Benowitz. The place became famous for conspiracy theories about an alleged underground base near Dulce. These claims grew in the late 20th century, especially around businessman Paul Benowitz. The most disturbing part is that Benowitz was reportedly fed fabricated information by Air Force counterintelligence as part of a disinformation effort. The real mystery may not be underground aliens. It may be how easily misinformation spreads. Archuleta Mesa shows how a restricted place can become a screen for human imagination. For the Jicarilla Apache Nation, it is land under sovereign management. For conspiracy culture, it became a symbol. But Archuleta Mesa is restricted by land rights. Number 1 is restricted for a far more urgent reason. Entering it could destroy lives separate from the modern world. For number 1, we travel into the far western Amazon. Number 1 is the Javari Valley Indigenous Territory in Brazil, one of the most important restricted places on Earth, not because it hides ruins, weapons, or secrets, but because it protects people who may not survive contact with the outside world. Deep in the western Amazon, near the borders of Peru and Colombia, the Javari Valley stretches across vast rainforest, rivers, canopy, heat, insects, mud, and silence. From above, it looks endless, a green world broken by winding water and hidden villages that outsiders may never see. There are no tourist trails into the heart of it, no open invitation, no safe curiosity. The forest is not empty, it is home. The Javari Valley is one of Brazil's largest indigenous territories and is believed to contain the largest concentration of uncontacted indigenous peoples anywhere on Earth. Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Agency, FUNAI, restricts access. Entry requires authorization, and the purpose is not secrecy for entertainment, it is survival. Uncontacted communities can be catastrophically vulnerable to common diseases. A virus that would barely stop an outsider could devastate a population with no acquired immunity. History has shown again and again that first contact can bring epidemic death, exploitation, and cultural destruction. That is why the boundary matters. The most shocking detail is that the people inside may never know the modern world is watching the edge of their forest. Meanwhile, illegal fishing, mining, logging, and land invasion threaten the territory from outside. In 2022, British journalist Dom Phillips and Brazilian indigenous rights expert Bruno Pereira were murdered while working in the region, drawing global attention to the dangers faced by those trying to protect the territory. This is not a fantasy forbidden zone. This is a real front line. The Javari Valley matters because it forces a moral question. Are there places humans should not enter, not because we cannot, but because entering would be wrong? Most banned places create curiosity. Javari demands restraint. It asks the modern world to do something it is terrible at doing. Leave something alone. The people inside are not museum pieces. They are not mysteries to be solved. They are living communities with the right to exist without being turned into content, research subjects, or victims of contact. That is why Javari Valley earns number 1. Because the most powerful forbidden place on Earth is not always the one with the strongest fence. Sometimes it is the one protected by an ethical line. A line that says, your curiosity is not more important than their survival. Your access is not more important than their choice. Your camera is not more important than their world. Most people will never see the Javari Valley, and maybe that is exactly how it should be. The most banned places on Earth are not all forbidden for the same reason. Some are too sacred, some are too fragile, some are too dangerous, some are scarred by nuclear history, some are protected by sovereignty, some are restricted because human curiosity itself can become a threat. From Surtsey's newborn ecosystem and Ice's sacred inner sanctuary to Lop Nur's nuclear desert, Enewetak's radioactive dome, Archuleta Mesa's disinformation history, and the Javari Valley's uncontacted peoples, these places remind us that not every door on Earth is meant to open. Which banned place fascinated you the most? Would you want to see one from a safe distance, or do you think some places should remain completely untouched? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy documentary-style rankings about forbidden places, subscribe for more. In the next video, we'll explore mysterious islands that almost no one is allowed to visit.